Hello, my friend. Welcome to Dreamy Nights. I'm so glad you're here in this quiet space we've made together. Tonight, we'll drift into a gentle story, one that feels like the steady glow of a hearth and the soft weight of falling snow, where every breath leads you a little closer to a deep and natural rest. So settle in, let your shoulders drop, and allow the world to grow soft and distant around you. When you're ready, our story begins. Before the path unfolds, if these quiet moments bring you peace, you might like to gently subscribe so you can always find your way back to this sanctuary. Your presence here truly means a lot. The world beyond the glass has begun to lose its definition. It is the hour when the sky transitions from a bruised purple to a deep, oceanic indigo, and the wind carries the first true whispers of the coming storm. Outside, the air is sharp and restless, swirling with tiny crystalline shards of ice that dance in frantic circles under the street lamps. But here, standing just inside the heavy oak door of the antique shop, the atmosphere is entirely different. It is a world composed of stillness, scented with the dry, comforting perfume of aged cedar wood and the faint, metallic sweetness of cold iron. A hand reaches out, slowly, without haste, to grasp the heavy iron bolt. It is cold to the touch, a solid and grounding weight. With a deliberate, muted thud, the bolt slides into place, sealing the door against the elements. The sound is final and protective. It is the signal that the modern world, with its frantic clocks and digital hums, has been left behind. In here, a time does not rush. It pools like water in a quiet basin. The shop is now a vessel, a sturdy wooden ship anchored in a sea of white, ready to ride out the blizzard in perfect, silent safety. The person moving through the shadows does so with a practiced, rhythmic step, their boots making no sound on the thick wool rugs that line the aisles. There is a profound sense of arrival in this ritual. The silence is not empty. It is a full, textured presence that wraps around the senses like a heavy quilt. To the left, a row of tall, narrow windows faces the street, but the view is rapidly vanishing. A fine dusting of snow has already begun to cling to the exterior of the glass, creating a natural lace that softens the harsh glow of the world outside. It is a beautiful, growing insulation, a wall of white silence that grows thicker with every passing minute. There is a particular kind of peace that comes from being truly enclosed. As the wind rises to a low, distant howl, it only serves to emphasize the profound warmth of the interior. The air here feels still and golden, as if it has been undisturbed for decades. Each shelf is a landscape of shadows and soft edges, holding the shapes of things that have long outlived their original purpose. There are no deadlines here, no demands for attention. There is only the slow, steady rhythm of a heart finding its natural pace in the dark. Turning away from the door, the gaze lingers on the floorboards, where the wood grain seems to flow like a frozen river under the dim light. The scent of beeswax polish rises faintly, a clean and honest aroma that speaks of care and the passage of years. Every object in this room, from the smallest brass gear to the largest wooden cabinet, seems to be exhaling, letting go of the day's tension. The shop is not just a place of business. It is a sanctuary for things that have been forgotten by the fast-moving world outside. It is a gallery of once-upons, waiting patiently for the night to settle. A soft sigh escapes into the cool air, a visible mist that dissipates almost instantly. There is a deep comfort in knowing that for the next several hours, there is nowhere to be and nothing to do but observe the quiet magic of the storm. The blue light from the windows casts long, elegant shadows across the floor, stretching out to touch the bases of the display cases. These shadows are not dark or foreboding. They are soft, of velvet extensions of the objects themselves, reaching out to join the rest of the room in a collective evening embrace. The first layer of the night has been laid down. The transition is complete. The boundary between the cold, chaotic outer world and this warm, centered interior is now absolute. As the person moves deeper into the heart of the shop, the faint sound of the wind becomes a decorative background, a textured hum that only deepens the feeling of security. It is the beginning of a long, slow descent into the heart of the winter's dream. The sanctuary is ready, the silver keys are waiting, and the story is just starting to breathe. The journey deeper into the shop is a slow progression through a landscape of soft silhouettes. In the center of the main room, a sturdy wooden table holds a collection of glass-chimneyed oil lamps, their brass bases polished to a dull, warm sheen. There is a specific, methodical grace to the act of lighting them, a tactile process that requires a steady hand and a quiet mind. The glass is cool and smooth against the fingertips as the chimney is lifted and set aside on a velvet cloth. A match is struck, a brief and cheerful hiss that punctuates the silence. The flame is a tiny, dancing point of amber that smells faintly of sulfur and wood smoke. As it touches the wick, the fire catches and begins to glow, a small sun born in the heart of the winter night. The chimney is replaced and the light is immediately transformed. It is no longer a sharp spark, but a diffused, honeyed radiance that spills across the table and begins to push back the indigo shadows of the storm. The light moves like a slow tide, revealing the intricate textures of the shop. It catches the delicate, turned legs of a walnut chair and the deep, pebbled grain of an old leather trunk. On the shelves, the light finds the curved surfaces of porcelain dolls and the metallic edges of forgotten tin whistles, turning them into points of soft, golden fire. This is not the harsh, flickering light of the modern world, but a constant, breathing glow that softens every edge and rounds every corner. It is a light that invites the eyes to rest rather than to search. There is a profound psychological shift that occurs as the warmth of the lamps fills the room, or the corners of the shop do not become dark. They become private, velvet alcoves where the history of the objects can rest undisturbed. The person moving through this glow feels the weight of the day lifting, replaced by the simple, grounding reality of the present moment. The air feels thicker now, saturated with the scent of warm oil and the dry, sweet musk of old paper. Every breath is an inhalation of history and quietude. As the third lamp is lit, the reflection of the flames appears in the frost-dusted window panes, looking like distant, friendly stars trapped within the ice. These reflections create a sense of infinite space, as if the shop extends far beyond its physical walls into a dreamscape of light and winter. There is no urgency in the movement from lamp to lamp. Each one is a deliberate act of care, a way of honoring the space and the treasures it holds. The hands that adjust the wicks are calm, moving with a fluid certainty that comes from a deep familiarity with these quiet rituals. A quiet reflection settles in the mind, a thought about the nature of light in the darkness. Just as these lamps provide a steady center for the room, the mind too can find a center, a place of warmth that remains constant even when the winds of the world howl outside. There is a great dignity in this small, glowing sanctuary. It is a reminder that beauty often requires a certain degree of shadow to be truly seen. The contrast between the amber light and the deep blue of the blizzard creates a theatrical stage where the most humble objects are elevated to a state of quiet grace. The shop is now fully illuminated. But it is a light that feels like a whisper. It does not demand attention. It merely suggests it. The shadows that remain are long and elegant, stretching across the floorboards to touch the bases of the display cases like the fingers of a resting giant. The person stands for a moment in the center of the room, surrounded by this golden haze, and feels the absolute stillness of the air. The transition from the day's activities to the night's observations is now complete. The stage is set, the warmth is secured, and the heart of the clockwork is about to begin its slow, rhythmic song. The golden light from the oil lamps now sits undisturbed, a thick and honeyed layer of warmth that seems to coat every surface in the shop. In this stillness, a new layer of the sanctuary begins to reveal itself, not to the eyes, but to the marrow of the bones. It starts as a low, almost imperceptible vibration a humming resonance that travels through the soles of the feet and up into the chest. It is the collective heartbeat of the shop, the grand mechanical chorus of the clocks. On the far wall, a row of tall, stately grandfather clocks stands like a line of silent sentinels, their dark mahogany and oak cases polished to a mirror-like sheen. Within their hollow bellies, the great brass weights hang suspended by silver chains, pulled downward by the invisible, patient hand of gravity. The person moves toward them, up their steps slow and rhythmic, matching the emerging tempo of the room. There is a profound sense of order here, a mathematical grace that defies the chaotic swirling of the blizzard outside. Reaching out, a hand brushes against the cool, smooth grain of a cherry wood case. The wood feels alive, vibrating with the energy of the internal machinery. Inside, the massive pendulum swings in a wide, deliberate arc, left to right, right to left. A heavy brass disc cutting through the air with a soft, shushing sound. It is a movement that feels as ancient as the tides, as inevitable as the setting of the sun. The sound it produces is not the sharp, electronic beep of the modern era, but a deep, resonant talk that echoes within the wood, a sound that carries the weight of history and the certainty of the present moment. One by one, all the other clocks join the symphony. There are the smaller wall clocks, their pendulums flickering like the tails of golden birds behind panes of hand-blown glass. There are the delicate mantel clocks with silver chimes that ring out with a soft, crystalline clarity, sounding like water droplets falling into a deep stone well. Together, they create a tapestry of sound, a dense, rhythmic weave that fills every corner of the shop. This is the pulse of the clockwork, a heartbeat that does not race or falter, but simply is. It is a sound that demands nothing but a listening ear, an anchor that keeps the mind from drifting into the anxieties of the future. The person stands in the center of this sonic landscape, closing their eyes to better feel the vibrations. The air seems to thrum with a collective purpose. In this moment, the shop is no longer a collection of stagnant objects. It is a living, breathing entity, a mechanical organism that has found its perfect, peaceful stride. The contrast between the howling wind outside and this internal, measured rhythm is profound. Outside, time is a blur of white noise and freezing gusts. Inside, time is a series of slow, deliberate steps, each one a celebration of stability and rest. A quiet reflection settles into the mind, as soft as the falling snow. In a world that often feels like it is moving too fast, there is a deep, curative power in synchronizing oneself with a slower pace. These clocks do not care about the pressures of the day or the demands of the digital world. They simply mark the passage of the now, one heartbeat at a time. To stand among them is to be given permission to slow down, push to let the internal racing of the heart subside until it matches the steady wooden pulse of the room. It is a form of mechanical meditation, a surrender to a rhythm that was established long before we arrived and will continue long after we depart. Moving to a smaller shelf, the person finds a collection of travel clocks, their leather cases worn soft by the touch of many hands over many decades. Even these small devices carry the same persistent energy. To hold one is to feel the tiny, rapid thrumming of a hummingbird's heart, a delicate, metallic life force that persists despite the dust and the shadows. The scent of old oil, refined and slightly floral, rises from the mechanisms. A smell that speaks of precision and the quiet hands of the horologists who first brought these gears to life. While the light from the lamps catches the rotating gears through the open back of a skeleton clock. The brass teeth interlock with a silent, oily perfection, turning slowly in a dance of absolute cooperation. There is no friction here, no resistance. Every part exists to support the movement of the next, a closed system of harmony that mirrors the peace of the shop itself. The blue light of the storm continues to press against the windows, but it cannot penetrate the wall of sound created by the clocks. The rhythmic pulse has created a second skin for the sanctuary, a barrier of vibration that keeps the world at bay. As the minutes dissolve into the shadows, the person feels a sense of profound belonging within this mechanical pulse. The body begins to relax, the muscles softening as they mirror the unhurried arc of the pendulums. Every tick is an invitation to let go. Every talk is a landing place for a weary thought. The room is no longer just a place to hide from the storm. It has become a temple of time, where the only requirement is to exist within the flow of the current moment. The symphony of wood and brass continues to swell and fade, a breathing landscape of sound that cradles the shop in its grasp. The person moves once more, their silhouette merging with the long shadows cast by the grandfather clocks. The air is cool, the light is golden, and the heartbeat of the room is steady. There is a deep, unshakable comfort in knowing that as the blizzard peaks outside, the pulse of the clockwork will remain unchanged, a constant, rhythmic promise of safety and the slow, beautiful arrival of sleep. The rhythmic heartbeat of the clocks provides a steady foundation for the silence. But within the alcoves of the shop, there are smaller, more intimate stories waiting to be awakened. The person moves toward a glass-topped cabinet where a velvet-lined tray holds a collection of curiosities. Among them lies a ring of tarnished silver keys, each one distinct in its scrollwork and weight. There is a specific tactile pleasure in selecting one. The metal is bitingly cold at first, then warms rapidly against the palm of the hand. It is a small, physical bridge between the stillness of the present and the dormant energy of the past. The light from the nearest oil lamp catches the intricate teeth of the key, casting a jagged, miniature shadow against the white lace of the tablecloth. With a slow, deliberate motion, the person moves toward a shelf where a row of mechanical figures resides. These are the velvet-eared rabbits, their fur now a soft, dusty gray. Their glass eyes reflecting the amber glow of the room with a fixed, gentle curiosity. To touch them is to feel the history of 1,000 childhoods. The slight thinning of the fabric where small hands once gripped them tight. The faint scent of dried lavender and old nursery cabinets that still clings to their seams. There is a small circular aperture in the side of the lead rabbit, a dark invitation for the silver key. The insertion is a sensory event. The soft clink of metal meeting metal, the slight resistance of the internal spring, and then the first firm turn. Crick, crack. The sound is sharp and clean in the quiet shop, a mechanical awakening. With each rotation, the tension builds, a potential energy that feels like a coiled secret. It is a process that cannot be rushed. To wind a toy is to practice a form of mechanical patience, a slow pouring of life into a vessel of wire and wool. As the key is withdrawn and the internal catch releases, a delicate melody begins to spill into the air. It is a music box tune, thin and crystalline, sounding like tiny hammers striking silver bells. The notes are slightly slowed by age, giving the lullaby a haunting, liquid quality that matches the pacing of the falling snow outside. The rabbit begins to move, a slow, rhythmic nodding of the head, a slight twitch of the long velvet ears. The movement is not fluid like a living thing, but it possesses its own peculiar grace, a stuttering, a charming dignity that belongs to a world where magic is powered by gears and dreams. The melody carries with it a flood of quiet reflections. To watch the mechanical rabbit is to see a fragment of a lost afternoon, a ghost of a nursery fire, a memory of a time when the world felt as small and safe as this shop. There is no sadness in this recollection, only a deep, resonant sense of continuity. These objects have survived the decades, outlasting the hands that first wound them, yet they remain ready to perform their simple, joyful tasks. They are keepers of a specific kind of innocence, a reminder that wonder does not disappear. It merely waits for the right key to turn. The person stands motionless, watching the velvet ears rise and fall in time with the music. The blue light of the blizzard continues to frost the window panes, but it feels increasingly distant. A different reality entirely. Here, the scale of the world has shrunk to the size of a silver key and the arc of a mechanical paw. The air feels charged with a gentle electricity, a sense that the shop is populated by 1,000 small lives, all resting in a state of tranquil readiness. Moving down the line, the silver key finds a second home in a small tin carousel. As the spring tightens, the smell of aged metal and cold lubricant rises. A clean, industrial scent that speaks of the toy's sturdy construction. When released, the carousel begins its slow, dizzying rotation. The painted horses, their colors softened by a century of shadows, rise and fall on their brass poles. The sound of the mechanism, the low, whirring hum of the governor, blends with the ticking of the clocks to create a rich, a layered texture of sound. It is a miniature world in motion, a tiny, self-contained universe that requires nothing from the outside world to exist in its own state of perfection. A quiet, inner reflection blossoms. The beauty of things that are broken or forgotten is that they are no longer required to be useful. They are allowed to simply be. In this shop, a toy does not need to entertain a child. It exists as a testament to craftsmanship and the endurance of joy. There is a profound comfort in finding magic in these relics, a psychological ease that comes from stepping outside the cycle of consumption and into a cycle of preservation. The velvet-eared rabbits and the tin horses are not products. They are companions in the long, white silence of the winter night. As the music of the first rabbit begins to slow, how the notes stretching out into long, shivering pauses, the person feels a corresponding softening in their own breath. The tension of the spring is nearly spent. The movement becomes more deliberate, the nodding head pausing for a second, then two, before completing its arc. The final note of the lullaby hangs in the air, a single silver thread that vibrates for a moment before dissolving into the deeper hum of the grandfather clocks. The silver key is placed back upon its velvet tray, its work for this hour finished. The rabbits return to their stillness, their glass eyes still holding the golden reflection of the lamps. The room feels even quieter now, the silence having been punctuated and then restored. It is a deeper silence, one that has been enriched by the awakening of secrets. The person feels a sense of completion, a readiness to move into the shadows where the light of the storm and the glow of the lamps engage in their final nightly dance. The heart is steady, the mind is clear, and the night is very, very long. The shop has reached a state of profound equilibrium, a delicate suspension between the amber warmth of the oil lamps and the encroaching spectral blue of the blizzard. The person moves with an almost liquid slowness toward the tall, frost-rimmed windows at the front of the store. Here, the glass has become a living canvas, a gallery of crystalline art, where the moisture of the warm interior has met the brutal chill of the exterior. The frost does not form in simple sheets. It grows in intricate fractalic plumes. silver ferns, jagged stars, and delicate branching veins of ice that reach toward the center of the panes like the fingers of a winter spirit. There is a mesmerizing quality to this boundary. To touch the glass is to feel a cold so sharp it vibrates, a stark reminder of the wild, the unbridled energy of the storm that rages just inches away. But within the shop, that cold is transformed into a visual silence. The light from the street lamps outside, filtered through the swirling snow and the thickening ice, enters the room as a soft, diffused indigo. It is a light that does not illuminate so much as it haunts, casting long, ethereal shadows that dance in opposition to the steady, golden pools created by the lamps. The person stands at this junction of colors, one half of their form bathed in the honeyed glow of beeswax and oil, the other brushed by the ghostly tint of the winter night. This is the theater of the shadows. On the floorboards, the silhouettes of the antique toys and the tall clock cases stretch out, elongating into strange, elegant shapes that seem to breathe with the flickering of the flames. A rocking horse in the corner casts a shadow that sways almost imperceptibly as the house settles, its wooden rockers tracing a silent arc against the wall. It is a theatrical stage where the forgotten and the broken are given a second, more mysterious life in the twilight. There is a specific psychological comfort in this isolation. To be surrounded by forgotten things during a moment of total environmental disconnection, wrapped in a blizzard, sealed behind iron bolts, is to find a unique form of peace. In the modern world, being forgotten is often feared, but here, in the blue snowlight, it is revealed as a state of grace. To be forgotten is to be released from the burden of utility. A cracked porcelain vase or a music box with a missing tooth does not need to be perfect to be beautiful. It only needs to exist within this soft, protective dimness. The pressure to achieve, to be seen, or to be productive dissolves into the shadows, leaving only the quiet dignity of presence. The person reaches out to a small shelf near the window, where a collection of glass paperweights sits. They are heavy, cool spheres of solid crystal, each holding a trapped world of colorful swirls or delicate millefiori flowers. As the blue light hits them, the glass seems to ignite from within, glowing with a cold inner fire. To hold one is to feel the weight of a captured moment. The hand moves now slowly, rotating the sphere so that the lamplight and the snowlight collide inside the glass, creating a miniature storm of gold and indigo. It is a tactile meditation, way of grounding the senses in the physical reality of the shop, while the mind drifts into the abstract beauty of the night. The scent of the air near the window is different, sharper, thinner, carrying the metallic tang of the frost. It mingles with the deeper, more resonant smells of the shop's interior. The scent of old velvet, which holds a faint, dusty sweetness, and the smell of the dark wood itself, which exhales a slow, resinous perfume as it reacts to the warmth of the lamps. This olfactory landscape is as layered as the shadows. Each breath is a story of contrast, a reminder of the safety found within the sanctuary. The person leans their forehead against the cool wood of the window frame, watching the way the wind whips the snow into white ghosts that vanish as soon as they touch the glass. In this stillness, a quiet reflection emerges about the nature of isolation. Often, we view being alone as a void, but in the sanctuary of the toy shop, isolation is a fullness. It is a space occupied by the history of objects and the steady rhythm of one's own breath. There is a profound sense of belonging here, not to a person or a place, but to a moment in time. The blizzard has granted a rare gift, the cessation of the outside world. For these few hours, the only reality is the one contained within these four walls. The toys, the clocks, the lamps, and the shadows are the only companions required. It is a moment of total crystalline clarity. The person moves back toward the center of the room, their silhouette crossing the floor like a dark bird in flight. As they move away from the windows, the blue light recedes, and the golden glow of the lamps reclaims them. The shadows of the furniture shift accordingly, swinging around in a slow, silent pivot. The room feels like a vast, ticking clock, where every movement is part of a larger, unseen mechanism. The transition from the forgotten state of the day to the magical state of the night is now complete. The shop has become a living gallery of human wonder, a place where the ordinary becomes extraordinary simply by being still. There is a sense of building towards a final rest. The eyes grow heavy, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer weight of the tranquility. The visual richness of the snowlight, the way it glints off the brass pendulums and softens the edges of the velvet-eared rabbits, is a lullaby for the senses. Everything is in its right place. The storm continues its frantic dance, but here, in the heart of the sanctuary, the only movement is the slow flicker of a wick and the steady, rhythmic pulse of the wooden clocks. The shadows are long, the light is soft, and the world is beautifully, perfectly quiet. The person settles into a high-backed armchair, the velvet cool and inviting. From this vantage point, the entire shop is visible, a landscape of amber and indigo, of ticking wood and silent tin. The reflection of the lamps in the frost-covered windows looks like a fleet of small ships anchored in a frozen sea. There is no more need for movement, no more need for the silver key. The story of the night is being told by the shadows, and the mind is finally ready to listen to its silent, ending notes. The deep winter peace has taken hold, and the night stretches out ahead, a vast and velvet expanse of dreamless rest. The high-backed armchair, upholstered in a deep, forest green velvet that has weathered decades of quiet afternoons, cradles the form in a firm but yielding embrace. From this low vantage point, the perspective of the shop shifts. The grand mahogany shelves no longer seem like storage. They rise up like the walls of a canyon, carved with the intricate, silent histories of 1,000 different lives. The air in this central hub of the room is perfectly still, heavy with the scent of beeswax and the faint, nostalgic musk of old paper. Every breath taken here feels filtered through time, a slow inhalation of a world that refuses to be rushed. On the small side table next to the chair sits a porcelain cup, its surface painted with delicate, faded cornflowers. It is empty, yet it seems to hold the ghost of 1,000 warm teas, its glaze webbed with a fine network of crackles, the crazing of age that marks a long life of service. The hand rests near it, the fingers tracing the smooth, cool rim. This is the architecture of memory, the way a physical object acts as a vessel for things that cannot be seen. Each item in this shop, a chipped marble, a frayed silk ribbon, a brass telescope, is a silent witness to a moment of human wonder. They are the anchors that keep the past from drifting away into the white blur of the storm outside. Across the aisle, the golden lamplight illuminates a stack of leather-bound ledgers, their spines cracked and golden-tooled with dates from the previous century. In those pages, recorded in elegant looping script, are the migrations of the toys. The day a rocking horse was sold to a family in the valley, how the afternoon a silver music box was brought in for repair. To look at them is to feel the interconnectedness of all things. These objects have traveled through the hands of children who are now grandparents. They have sat on bedside tables during summer thunderstorms and winter blizzards, much like this one. They are survivors of the ephemeral, physical proof that beauty endures even when the hands that held it have let go. A quiet reflection settles over the mind, as soft as the soot falling in a distant hearth. We often think of memory as something internal, a flickering image in the brain. But in this sanctuary, memory is external and tactile. It is the weight of the silver key. It is the specific grainy texture of the walnut wood. But there is a profound psychological release in surrounding oneself with these keepers of history. It allows the individual to step out of the frantic, linear progression of the modern day and into a circular, seasonal time. In here, it does not matter what year it is. The 2026 landscape, with its glowing screens and digital ghosts, feels like a dream that has not yet happened. The only reality is the solid, wooden now. The blue light from the snowstorm continues to pulse against the frost on the windows, but from the depths of the armchair, it looks like a distant, underwater glow. The contrast between the cold, crystalline blue and the warm, amber interior creates a sense of profound safety. It is the feeling of being in a burrow, a nest built of velvet and brass. The person watches a small and wooden bird, a cuckoo clock's inhabitant, peek out from its housing high on the wall. It does not sing. It simply rests on its perch, its painted wings reflecting the flicker of the oil lamp. It is a moment of total suspension, a pause in the music of life where the silence is more melodic than the song. Tactile details begin to merge with the onset of a gentle lethargy. The fabric of the chair feels like moss against the skin, and the rhythmic tick-tock of the grandfather clocks has become a physical sensation, a slow rocking of the internal equilibrium. The scent of the shop seems to deepen as the night progresses, the smell of the old wood becoming more pronounced, a dry, peppery aroma that clears the mind and steadies the heart. There is a sense of being held by the room, of being a temporary part of its vast, mechanical inventory. To be a guest in this architecture of memory is to be granted a temporary reprieve from the self. A movement of the eyes reveals a row of glass jars on a lower shelf, filled with various clock parts, tiny brass cogs, hair-thin springs, and ruby bearings that catch the light like drops of wine. These are the bones of the shop's magic. They represent the potential for restoration, the belief that what is broken can be made whole again with enough patience and a steady hand. There is a quiet philosophy in these jars. The idea that time is made of small, replaceable parts, and that even when a mechanism stops, the essence of the machine remains. It is a thought that brings a deep, resonant peace to the chest, a feeling of being part of a larger, repairable world. The shadows on the ceiling, cast by the intricate fretwork of the shelving, look like the canopy of a great, dark forest. The mind begins to wander through this canopy, drifting away from the specifics of the shop and into the abstract territory of half-sleep. The images of the day, the whiteout conditions of the street, the cold iron bolt, the silver key, begin to soften at the edges, melting into a singular, warm impression of sanctuary. The heavy velvet of the chair seems to rise up to meet the shoulders, a gentle weight that signals the body's readiness to surrender. There is one final, lingering look at the shop's interior. The golden haze of the lamps has turned the dust motes into a slow-motion dance of amber sparks. The blue snow light has turned the window frost into a forest of sapphire. The clocks continue their heartbeat, a steady, unhurried counting of the seconds that lead toward midnight. Everything is balanced. Everything is preserved. The architecture of memory is strong enough to hold the storm at bay, and the soul is finally still enough to rest within its walls. The journey through the history of objects has reached its quiet peak, leaving behind a trail of peace and the soft, rhythmic promise of the coming dream. The grand mechanical symphony of the shop has reached its softest movement, a delicate decrescendo where the kinetic energy of the evening begins to return to a state of potential rest. Sitting in the velvet armchair, the person observes the subtle slowing of the world around them. The tension in the springs of the antique toys, those coiled hearts of steel and brass, is nearly spent. There is a profound, poetic beauty in this exhaustion. It is not a failure, but a natural conclusion to a period of expression. The lead mechanical rabbit, which only an hour ago nodded with a crisp, rhythmic vitality, now moves with a heavy, deliberate languor. Its velvet ears rise and fall like the slow, rhythmic breathing of a sleeper, each arc slightly shorter than the last, as if it is being gently pulled back into the depths of the wooden shelf. The music box tune, that crystalline thread of silver that once wove through the ticking of the clocks, has stretched into something liquid and translucent. The notes are no longer sharp. They are rounded by the silence that surrounds them. A single high chime hangs in the air for a long, vibrating moment, shivering against the glass of the display cases, before it finally dissolves into the scent of old wood and extinguished matchsticks. This is the fading waltz, the transition from the active magic of the toys to the deep, primordial stillness of the shop's true nature. It is a slow, graceful surrender that mirrors the heavy, pleasant lethargy spreading through the limbs of the watcher. The person's gaze drifts to the floorboards, where the golden pools of lamplight have shrunk slightly as the oil in the reservoirs burns low. The shadows have grown even longer, reaching out from the corners to reclaim the center of the room. This shifting of light feels like a tide coming in, a slow, warm inundation of darkness that is not cold or frightening, but soft and protective. The tactile world is softening. The hard edges of the brass gears and the sharp teeth of the silver keys are being blurred by the dimness. To the touch, the velvet of the armchair feels thicker, a dense moss that absorbs the last remnants of the day's vibration. The air itself feels heavy, as if the falling snow outside has added a layer of weight to the very atmosphere within. A quiet, inner reflection blossoms in the mind. There is a dignity in stopping. In a world that demands constant motion, the antique shop teaches the value of the pause. These objects do not feel diminished because their springs have run down. They simply return to a state of quiet readiness. They exist in a cycle of activity and repose that is far more honest than the frantic pace of the modern world. There is a deep psychological release in allowing oneself to run down along with them, to let the internal gears stop their spinning and to accept the coming darkness as a necessary, beautiful phase of existence. To be still is not to be empty. It is to be full of the peace that only comes when the work is done. Looking toward the windows, the blue light of the blizzard has become a deep, midnight navy. The frost has grown so thick on the panes that the outside world has been entirely erased. There are no streets, no lamps, no sky, only the intricate, frozen forest of the glass. The shop has become a true island, a solitary spark of warmth in a vast, white ocean. The sound of the wind has changed. It is no longer a howl, but a low, subterranean moan that vibrates against the heavy stones of the foundation. It is a lullaby provided by the earth itself, a reminder that the storm is simply the world's way of tucking itself in for the winter. The person reaches out a hand, moving it slowly through the air as if through water. The movement feels meaningful and slow. The fingers brush against a small tin drum resting on a low stool. The metal is cool and dry, smelling faintly of old paint and cold attics. It does not ring when touched. It merely offers a dull, grounding thud that anchors the senses in the physical present. Everything in the room is settling. The grandfather clocks, so though their pendulums continue their faithful swing, seem to be whispering their tick-tocks now, the sound becoming a rhythmic background hum rather than a distinct series of events. It is a heartbeat heard through a thick pillow, steady, comforting, and distant. The scent of the shop has reached its final nighttime complexity. The sharp, metallic tang of the frost near the windows has been completely overtaken by the warm, resinous perfume of the interior. There is the smell of aged pine, the sweet, earthy scent of beeswax, and a faint, floral ghost of the lavender that was used to pack away the velvet toys a century ago. It is a scent that bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the oldest parts of the brain, signaling safety, history, and rest. The person closes their eyes for a moment, letting the aroma fill their lungs, and feels the last of their internal tension dissolve into the forest green velvet of the chair. In this state of half-dreaming, the shop begins to feel like a living gallery of human wonder. The toys are no longer just objects. They are vessels of intention, crafted by hands that believed in the importance of a smile or a moment of surprise. The clocks are not just machines. They are the rhythmic guardians of the house, ensuring that the passage of time is always marked with grace. There is a profound sense of gratitude for these silent companions. They have provided the architecture for this evening of peace, creating a space where the soul can catch its breath and remember how to be still. The lamp on the side table flickers once, a small golden pulse that illuminates the porcelain teacup and the silver keys one last time. The shadows jump and then settle, even deeper than before. The fading waltz is nearly over. The silence that follows is not a void, but a rich, textured presence that holds the room in a gentle, unwavering grip. The person feels a sense of profound readiness, a willingness to let go of the last threads of the story and sink into the waiting arms of the night. The shop is at peace. The toys are at rest. The storm is a distant memory, and the heart is as steady and quiet as the sleeping clockwork. The final transition has arrived, as subtle and inevitable as the shifting of a sand dune under a desert moon. In the heart of the antique shop, the golden light of the oil lamps has retreated to a singular, glowing ember within the glass chimneys, casting a soft, flickering amber that barely reaches the edges of the velvet armchair. The room is no longer defined by its objects, but by the vast, textured space between them. The great mahogany shelves have dissolved into walls of soft shadow, and the intricate gears of the brass clocks have become silent, dark geometries against the wood. The air is perfectly still, a cool and aromatic blanket that smells of deep cedar, old linen, and the clean mineral scent of the winter night. There is a profound physical weight to this silence. It is not the absence of sound, but a positive presence, a white silence that mirrors the deep, insulating snow outside. To the person resting in the chair, the boundary between the body and the room has begun to blur. The heavy green velvet feels less like a fabric and more like a supportive extension of the self, a soft earth that rises up to hold the weary frame. Every muscle has found its natural state of release, the tension flowing out of the fingertips and the soles of the feet like water soaking into dry soil. The breath has slowed to a rhythmic, effortless tide, a shallow and peaceful measurement of the absolute now. Outside, the blizzard has finally sighed itself into exhaustion. The wind, which had spent the evening in a frantic, howling dance, has settled into a low, rhythmic pulse that is barely audible through the thick stone walls. The world beyond the glass is a kingdom of white on white, a landscape where every sharp edge and jagged corner has been rounded and softened by a foot of fresh, crystalline powder. The frost on the windows has reached its zenith, a thick and shimmering forest of ice that reflects the dying amber light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. It is a protective shell, a second skin for the sanctuary that ensures nothing from the restless, modern world can penetrate this circle of peace. Looking around the room one last time, the gaze lingers on the row of velvet-eared rabbits. They are motionless now, their internal springs fully relaxed, their glass eyes holding a faint, final glint of the lamp's glow. They seem to be dreaming, if toys can dream, of the hands that once held them and the songs they have played over a century of nights. There is no sadness in their stillness, only a profound sense of completion. They have fulfilled their purpose for the evening, and like the person in the chair, they are content to simply exist in the dark. The silver keys on their velvet tray are cold and quiet, their intricate scrollwork hidden by the shadows, waiting patiently for a morning that feels 1,000 years away. A quiet, final reflection settles into the mind. The true magic of the shop was never in the movement of the gears or the melody of the music boxes, but in the permission it gave to be still. In this sanctuary, the pressure to be someone or to do something has vanished. Here, in the white silence, there is only the fundamental piece of belonging to the moment. The shop is a living gallery of human wonder, yes, but it is also a cathedral of rest. To be part of its inventory for a night is to be reminded that we are all, at our core, rhythmic beings who need the dark and the quiet to find our center once again. The soul feels as polished and clear as the glass of the oil lamps, emptied of the day's clutter and filled with the cool, blue essence of the winter night. The grandfather clocks have reached a state of near subliminal operation. The tick-tock is no longer a sound that the ears hear, but a vibration that the heart feels. A steady, anchoring pulse that says, all is well, all is well. It is a sound that leads towards sleep, a rhythmic ladder descending into the soft, dark waters of the subconscious. The person feels a gentle, drifting sensation, as if the armchair is a small wooden boat being carried away from the shore by a slow and silent current. All the shadows on the ceiling are the branches of a great protective tree, and the floorboards are the solid, unshakable foundation of a world that knows how to keep its secrets. The last flicker of the lamp occurs now, a small golden spark that leaps upward before gracefully expiring. The room is plunged into a true velvet darkness, illuminated only by the spectral blue-white glow of the snow, filtering through the ice on the windows. This is the color of the deepest part of the night. It is a light that does not wake, but cradles. The scent of the beeswax and cedar remains, a haunting and beautiful perfume that lingers in the nostrils like a faded memory of home. The person's eyelids grow impossibly heavy, a weight that is welcomed and embraced. There is no more need for sight, no more need for thought. The story has reached its final, unwritten page. The transition is complete. The shop, with its clocks and its toys and its silver keys, has returned to its primary state of rest. It is a treasure chest locked tight against the winter, a place where time has finally stopped its frantic race and settled into a slow circular hum. The blizzard is gone, the world is white, and the sanctuary is silent. The heart beats in time with the deep wooden pulse of the house, a slow and steady rhythm that signals the absolute arrival of sleep. The night holds the shop kindly, a velvet hand pressing down on the world, ensuring that every gear and every spirit is given the gift of total dreamless peace. The story of the antique toy shop is now a part of the silence. It lives in the grain of the wood and the curve of the brass pendulums. It is a song that doesn't need to be sung, a light that doesn't need to be lit. As the last conscious thought dissolves like a snowflake on a warm palm, the only thing that remains is the feeling of being safe, being held, and being home. The night is vast, the snow is deep, and the rest is perfect. Sleep well, dream softly, and may the night hold you kindly.